Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Monkey here for MMOBomb.com, and welcome back to your favorite podcast, the one and only free-to-play podcast, episode 75. I'm your host, and of course, we've got our normal, usual lineup of dashing, dazzling co-hosts. Speaking of them, we have Kevin and Jason Winter. Kevin doesn't have a last name, only Jason does, so it's Kevin, Jason Winter. How are you guys doing? Kevin, you were MIA last week, but we have you back now. And what have you been doing that the week off of the free to play podcast show? What did you spend your Sunday doing?
I was working and I played this wonderful game that I'm not allowed to talk about because of non-disclosure agreements. Awesome.
You can say what game you played. You just can't say
it was
what
Infinite
it was about.
Crisis. I played a lot of Infinite Crisis.
Infinite Crisis. So I guess whenever we talk about the open beta, then you are going to be the man to speak of. Jason, what did you spend your Sunday doing besides doing the podcast with me?
Absolutely nothing productive.
Nothing productive? That sounds like my kind of Sunday. I think that's what I did pretty much this whole day.
It's the best kind.
It's the best kind of being productive, not. All right, well, we have some productivity to be had this evening, starting with a couple of interesting news topics, dealing with Ubisoft. That sounds like some kind of like actor, Ubisoft.
That's David Hasselhoff's twin brother.
Exactly. Ubisoft being hacked, RuneScape 3's launch. We have RuneScape 3's launch. It's not even RuneScape 3. It's RuneScape's 3.0 evolution launch, whatever you want to call it. World of Warplanes open beta. WoW potentially heading free to play. That's like, I think that's been the statement every year since WoW, turned 5, I guess. And then the new member topics that we've had before, and the weekly bombs and what have you. So let's go ahead and just dribble right into this. Dribble, roll, whatever you want to call it. We'll roll. Yeah, I think rolling is the optimal thing to do. Right into the news. RuneScape 3 launch date. It's been announced for however many people still play RuneScape 3, which admittedly there's still a lot, and I'm not bashing RuneScape by saying that it still has a really, really devoted follower. But it's kind of like saying Star Wars has a really devoted following. Like, it's been around for so long. It's garnered this big attention and audience that never dies and will always be playing that game till they're 40 or I don't know. But it's got an update, and props for Jagex for doing that update. It does a lot of interesting things, like move it away from Java, which was the first time in history. I think RuneScape's been away from Java. They're moving all to HTML5, which I consider myself a nerd when it comes to internet stuff, but I still don't quite comprehend what HTML5 is, like what it brings. Do any of you know what it does?
It's 5 times better than HTML1.
Oh yeah, that's how we measure everything. If it's got a bigger number, it's better.
I believe it's just a little more flexible about what they can do, and it just gives them a little more wiggle room and less likely to have like glitches and lag issues and stuff like that.
I want that to be the like official description of HTML5. I want it just to be like, it gives you a little bit more wiggle room, and you can do a little bit more with it. And,
you can dance a little.
And you'd be like, oh, that's what it does. Okay. That's awesome. So yeah, it gets, on HTML5, apparently it can get way better graphics, so we're seeing a relative huge, I guess you could say, increase in performance and fidelity in that area, which, I mean, to be honest, it's great to see that they've done that, but we all know RuneScape players don't play RuneScape for the graphics.
Maybe they will now.
Maybe they will now. Maybe that will be the thing that keeps them logging in, other than the soul-crushing fact that they have to grind out another 5 spell levels or something like that. Jason, did you ever play RuneScape?
No, I've managed to avoid it, but it's like you said. I mean, it's big. They claim over 200 million people 200 million accounts have been made. You know, half of them bots or something, but you know.
No, I think half of them are like. I think half of those are like elementary school kids.
Well, they banned like 9 million accounts for botting a while back. I remember that when that was news. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. I do remember that. I just like to think that they're a bunch of children, because when I played RuneScape, the internet wasn't something that everybody had in their houses all the time. Well, I know, like, I'm bragging like that makes me old, Jason, but it was something that I had to go to local library to get on the internet for a long time when I was young. And so I wanted, of course, to play games, and eventually I got bored of the educational games on this computer, so I would have to go online, and that's how I discovered online gaming, like Neopets and freaking RuneScape at that time, original RuneScape and what have you, and so that's how I was introduced to it. And although I didn't play very much, I did get a very broad sense of how the game was played. After the first time, someone took me out into the forest, promising me good loot and stuff, only to kill me and take my stuff. So, I mean, that was like my first MMO. I guess that was my first true MMO experience, like in RuneScape early on. But it's kind of nice to see that Jagex is always sort of evolving the game. And that kind of makes me question, like, we have EverQuest and EverQuest 2, and now we're going to have EverQuest Next. If a game is so good, if an MMO is so good, why not just take what is so good and continuously, instead of making a sequel to it, just evolve it, make a brand new engine for it. It's still the same game, still the same accounts, migrate everything over like they're doing basically, but with all these updated features that go beyond what a simple patch could do or update could do. What do you think? What are the pros and cons of that?
That's what they're doing with... No, go ahead.
I feel it's a bit of an outlier. I'm not entirely sure everyone else can pull this off. I mean, I don't know, because playing any MMO, most of the time, yeah, you enjoy it for a long time, and then it gets tired. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again. And if they don't really create something brand new, I mean, expansions can kind of do that, but if it's just a remodeling of it, I have a hard time wanting to ever stay with it. So, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I don't really know if any other MMOs or any other game is really capable of just kind of redoing it without really reinventing the wheel or bringing something new to the table.
Jason?
It depends on how the current game is doing. In a case like RuneScape, they probably still have hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of people actually playing it, so they don't want to make a new game and risk losing those people. They just want to kind of polish up this one. Whereas, you take EverQuest as an example. I mean, it was certainly in decline, I think, when EverQuest 2 came out, and then WoW was going to come out, and that just, torched all the older games. I mean, you look at even stuff like PlanetSide 2, PlanetSide 1 was probably not doing that great, so that was a reason why they wanted to make PlanetSide 2, because they didn't so much care if the PlanetSide 1 players got offended by it or didn't want to play it, because there were so few of them anyway. Yeah. So they want to go for bigger people. Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars did okay, but it was relatively self-contained kind of a niche game, and they wanted something bigger and more spectacular, something almost not so much a challenge WoW, but at least be kind of mentioned in the discussion. And that's I think the delineator between which approach you take. RuneScape still is doing well enough that they don't want to lose all those customers potentially to RuneScape, the new RuneScape Next or whatever. Mm-hmm. So. And
for those even on RuneScape that want to play the older version, it's obvious in recent months that Jagex has sort of put that support out there. They've had like classic RuneScape, which goes back to I forget what patch, but it is at a time when people felt like RuneScape was really good. Kind of like the whole like WoW was better during either the original WoW, 1 to 60, or the first expansion, and they only want to play that content. And so essentially Jagex did that. In my opinion, between updating a game versus making a sequel to it, I actually think it'd be really cool if they sort of did like a Mass Effect thing to it, or any kind of like family history progression, slightly like what Guild Wars did, but much more in depth, whereby your character, sure, it dies in the original one and it migrates over. And an MMO may have done this. I don't recall, but I know at least single player games have done this to some respect. But your character, dies, and their offspring are what you take over in the new version of the MMO, and with the different classes or what have you. But as you progress through the story, everything reflects back on what your previous character did and what you're now doing in this new world that potentially is, a couple hundred years down the line or something like that. What do you guys think? Does that work? Is it a nice combo?
It's like Fable or like the Mass Effect thing, but for an MMO. I'd play it.
Yeah, that'd be
done right.
That is a way, I guess, to get people to sort of go into it, but you're still worried about maybe cannibalizing your own customer base, because some people are still going to want to stick with the original one with their original character if they don't like the rule set or whatever for the new one.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure that is the case, but with so many, I would figure that at a certain point, if you could say, this game has done so well for this long, it's obvious that it's past its prime, but it still has a decent, fan base of it. Why don't we make this so that you can continue the storyline on a large sort of gap in between the current events and like the future events? So that it's past like what usually happen and maybe in a completely different locale rather, combined, but still keep the old one the same and still maybe produce a few, kind of like expansions that tie out the rest of the game, to like its completion or so. Like I feel like there's still ways to do that, but I don't know. I do agree though that sequels, especially when a game has obviously way past its prime, like EQ was. Those do necessitate, but we haven't really seen any MMO sequels really catch on, except for really PlanetSide 2. I mean, you have Ragnarok 2. I wouldn't really consider that to be a huge improvement over the original. It's a different take on the game, but
didn't Turbine just bring back Asheron's Call 2? That they resurrected it after it had been offline for like 7 hours. Nobody knows what Team Fortress 1 was.
Yeah,
it's like Street Fighter 2.
Exactly.
Nobody ever played Street Fighter 1.
But it did better. That's my point.
It did better, but you gotta remember back then that was like when the internet was new. So like the game having like 5,000 players, 10,000 players was really good.
Okay, what about StarCraft 2 then?
StarCraft 2, but see, now you're getting away from like MMOs. You're getting into strategy games. Like that's a completely different thing. Come on. So yeah, RuneScape 3 launch date July 22nd. There's going to be a community-focused event. The expansion isn't just on visual stuff. It is also adding a lot of new content that allows you to sort of mold and shape the world as players themselves, like hands-on. They did sort of stress that it wasn't just a mere like, you do a quest line and it changes the world, that kind of thing. It's more like hands-on, direct approach. So you can find out more information by heading it over to the RuneScape 3 official site or by checking out the full article on MMOBomb.com. July 22nd, not a new game, just a remake. Check it out. All right. Second article here dealing with Ubisoft getting hacked. I guess this isn't the first time I think Ubisoft's been hacked. I think this is just the first time Ubisoft's been hacked in this area, like username, email stuff. I'm pretty sure their whole system was hacked and players could download any game they wanted off their service a while back. That's like a separate issue.
That was the good kind of hack.
That was the good kind of hack, yeah. That was the kind of hack you're like, oh, yes, free games, please. So, yeah, usernames, emails, and encrypted passwords, not just normal passwords. We're not talking about, your mother's notepad here. We've got encrypted passwords stolen. So, Ubisoft being a good company, they announced it to everybody. They didn't say when it occurred. So, I mean, we think they're good because they announced it, but it could have happened like a month ago or something. A website, it says that according to Ubisoft, the company recently found one of their websites had been exploited to gain unauthorized access to some of their online systems. And it contains the aforementioned usernames, email addresses, passwords. You can, of course, and in fact, Ubisoft, if you log into any Ubisoft game right now, it will direct you to a password reset page. And it will do that every time until you actually reset it. So it's affected all the games, pay to play, or buy to play rather, and free to play. That includes Ghost Recon Online, Anno Online, and the Mighty Quest for Epilogue. There might be other games, but those are the three that I can think of right now that are free to play. So, I guess my question is, I mean, do you get mad at Ubisoft for this? Is this something to get mad at big companies anymore? I mean, okay, there was a security exploit, right? But you would figure Ubisoft, a company of that side, has gone through trouble, the trouble of trying to plug most holes, and that they are only human, and things happen. I mean, we've had other big companies, Wargaming, Sony, even Steam, Blizzard. They've all been hacked before in varying degrees. So, do you kind of like say, case closed, Ubisoft's done its work, it's alerted everybody, it's taking actions to fix it? What can you do? Shrug your shoulders, or I don't know. What do you guys think?
How many times was Sony hacked last year? and they actually got credit card information, wasn't it? Like 3 times.
Something like that. It was.
Yeah.
I think at least 2 major times.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, that's when it gets upsetting, is when they do get it and then it happens again. Like, I think for now it's like, okay, no personal payment stuff. That's a good start, and you let us know immediately. That's good too. So as long as this doesn't happen again, or at least for a long time, I think they're done everything they can. I mean, it shows that they made a change. Obviously, if someone really wants to hack you, if they're going to spend a lot of time and energy aiming for you, eventually they're going to get through. It's almost impossible to plug every single hole. But the length of time between these breaches is really kind of the evidence of how well they could. Yeah. And with Sony, again, like that, really close together and major information leaks, it's like, are you kidding me? But this, I mean, yeah, as long as we don't see something happen again or something worse happen soon, I think they've done exactly what they need to.
Jason?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like it's like an achievement nowadays. It's like it's something that goes up on their achievement plaque for every video game company. Got hacked.
Yeah.
Because they pretty much all do at some point, and as long as, like you said, it doesn't seem like to be a major, huge, awful thing. In fact, they were pretty upfront about it. It's pretty good. They maybe should still try to figure out how to offer some sort of benefit to players, to people with accounts.
Yeah.
Like Wargaming did. They gave a couple hundred gold or whatever, and Sony, of course, fell all over themselves trying to apologize and then give out free stuff for their issues that they had last year. But yeah, I mean, it's not that big. It's not that big a deal to me. It's not only game companies, but everybody gets hacked. I mean, banks get hacked all the time, and
I mean, I've been hacked.
Yeah. Individual video game accounts get hacked too, and so on.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But I'm saying that whatever, like my YouTube got hacked, and YouTube was sort of like the thing that got me into working with MMOBomb and everything like that. And anytime you draw any sort of, I think, attention to yourself, whether you be a big name company or anything else that has people, having opinions of you, you're prone to getting someone who's like disgruntled or what have you and wants to go in there and mess with things. So if it happens to a company like Ubisoft, I think everybody kind of gets a get out of jail free card, like one obligatory one.
Sure.
Because you're like, we don't, how everything's going, and then from there we can kind of judge the overall assessment of how the company handles it in the future.
It's funny too, for all the game companies we hear about you being hacked. Have we ever seen major consequences from any of them? Like, all my characters are gone, or suddenly I've got $8,000 in microtransactions or something?
I know for a fact for smaller MMO companies, there has been cases where like players' full accounts are wiped out and that kind of stuff because of hacks, and players have to start completely over. And that deals less with actual account bases, and more like they went into the servers and wiped the accounts kind of thing.
Sure.
But it's still a form of a hack.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I know that's happened to some smaller MMORPGs. Obviously, it doesn't really happen to larger ones. They have a little bit more contingency plans in place for that kind of stuff. But it has happened, at least to the small fish. And the larger fish, I guess you could say Sony would have been the biggest upset one in terms of like how much massive damage was done. Because usually for a company Sony's side, and indeed Ubisoft probably had the exact same thing, you have redundancies in place to handle this kind of stuff, no matter what type of hack it is. So as you know, you could already see passwords that were stolen were encrypted. And Ubisoft, pretty much this is like a closed case in Ubisoft's favor. No need to rile anyone up and get offended or anything like that. But you should change your passwords. Don't just think that, oh, it's encrypted, whatever, it's fine. If you have a Ubisoft account and you're like, I don't even log into it anymore, whatever, I don't care if someone hacks it. If you use that password for anything else, they could gain access to other parts of the internet that have your name on it. Just think about that, because they would get your name and your email address.
And they know where you live.
And they know where you live. I know where you live.
And they see where you sleep.
So that's Internet 101, kids. Internet Security 101.
So you can be pretty sure that Edward Snowden's not going to log into his World of Warcraft account?
No.
The NSA will be watching it.
Exactly. They'll know exactly where we're paying. He can't do anything fun on the internet. He can't do...
He should just kill himself now if you can't. No.
Right? Like, ugh. What? No, don't make me agree to. You're a terrible person. You're a terrible person. I didn't catch that in time. All right. World of Warplanes. World of Warplanes now is in open beta. I guess a sarcastical golf clap. It finally came out of closed beta. I'd have to say Wargaming kind of, in my opinion, dropped the ball with Warplanes. Like, dropped it and then kicked it towards their own field goal. Like they're going to score in themselves.
Well, they're based in Belarus, Russia, so it's probably more of like a football, soccer.
It could be soccer. It could be rugby too.
That's true. I suppose so.
It could work for both of those. And either way, all those sports do involve kicking.
Sure, kicking a ball into a goal.
Yeah, they all do involve that. So I've been doing a little bit of research. The control scheme seems to be somewhat similar to what it was when I last played it, which players have been having a huge issue with. I don't know if it reacts better to controllers or to like joysticks, but at least keyboard and mouse, it does not look good. And I mean, it's kind of one thing to be delayed when you're the only one in the market, but you still come out and people have issues, but maybe you can fix them, But when you have your competitor beat you to the market like months ahead of time, War Thunder, I'm talking about War Thunder, and announce that it's going to be better looking and on the PS4, while your predecessor is going to be just on the Xbox 360 for now. It could be in the future as well. It just looks bad. Like, it just looks bad on you.
Yeah, it's like they almost got beaten to their own game because
that's their game. Like, that's all they do.
Yeah, I mean, like a year ago, we thought Wargaming was they're just going to do everything. They got the tanks, they're going to have the planes, the ships. They are the World War II simulation arcade style battle game. But then here comes this now. Here comes War Thunder, and it's like, hey, this is actually pretty good. When we played it this last week, when we were first going to play it, I thought too. I was like, oh, it's not by Wargaming. I don't want to play this. And then I got into it. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
I recall having a not great experience with Warplanes when I was at PAX, but this is really fun. I like this.
The controls to me feel a lot tighter. It feels a lot easier. Because one thing I had when I played World of Warplanes, I couldn't keep my guns on a player to save my life. Like, it would go like left and right of him all the time, and it's extremely frustrating. And I felt like it just really took away, like, I didn't feel like I was flying a plane. I felt like I was flying a stick that was, like, pivoted on my finger. And it just went whatever way, opposite of where I was pivoting it. But in War Thunder, it did feel a lot, more controlled and, like, a more concise experience. So I think everybody expected Warplanes to do just as well and sort of have the big hoopla as World of
War Tanks.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of 3 different games in my head, 4 different games if you include Warships. World of Tanks, because of how popular it was. But honestly, I think War Thunder has come out and sort of solidified that you don't have to play Warplanes to get a good, aviation experience from that time period.
Yeah, and don't they have plans to integrate other kind of genres into the same game?
Yeah, I don't know how far that'll go. They mentioned like ground troops or ground tanks rather, and ships in the water. But it would be really cool. I know whatever they're implementing, it is going to be involved in the same match, as far as I can tell.
Right.
Which Wargaming is not doing. Mm-hmm. Which I think that would be a big, huge deal for War Thunder. Like a huge leg up over the competition in that regards. But I have seen World of Warships at E3, and I can report that was looking really good too. Certainly better than Warplanes, just from what early I could see of it. So, you can't have success at every corner. Maybe they need to come back and, as open beta progresses, as the game goes on, they can always still change that system, unless it's so far embedded into how they're coded that they can't rip it out, which is why it's still been in there this whole time, despite players having issues with it. But you also have to remember that a lot of people have a lot of money invested in World of Tanks and are eager to spend it on something other than World of Tanks. which
But
is why the unified system allows them to do it on both.
Yeah, you think though that wargaming just they don't seem like stupid people. Basically, I mean they have to know that if they're getting this much flack, if they're hearing this much issues with the controls and everything, that they're gonna do what they have to change it before it goes to actual launch.
And yet it stayed for so long.
It's still like I said, maybe it's just one of those things. It's gonna be really hard, and it's gonna take them a while still.
I mean, there's so much speculation that you have to do about this, and that's why speculation. I don't want to be CNN. But there's a lot of things to consider, including the fact that maybe it would just be easier for them to recode all of it separately, take the time to do that, and then just integrate it at once, because maybe it requires so much recoding that they can't just push it out in a small update or something like that. Things like that are the things you have to consider when you're developing, but we'll see what the future has in store. Maybe we can get an interview out of Wargaming and ask them, do you have any plans on fixing this issue, versus your competitors? Kevin, are you much of an aviation guy at all?
Not really.
You don't like flying things?
Not even in simulators. I tried a little bit when I was younger, and it was just boring. I don't know.
Look at Kevin here. Kevin,
I suck at War Thunder, as anybody who watched the video we did can tell, but I was still playing.
Hey, Kevin just doesn't like things that are relatable to real life. He's like,
what that is?
I need to play a shooter. Untrue. I need to play a shooter that has lasers and aliens and spaceships.
Heck no, I played the crud out of like Modern Warfare 3 and all the Black Ops and all of them. I played them religiously for years.
So what you're saying is he wants flying tanks.
He wants flying. Yeah.
Yep, I want glitches that let me fly tanks. Exactly.
I'm ready for a space simulation MMO where you actually go to each of the turrets. You go to each of the turrets and you command the ship, and you have people going through the ship and fixing things or monitoring stuff and repositioning shields, what have you.
That was what I hoped Star Trek Online was going to be. I got a little disappointed when I found out everyone's a captain and has their own ship. I was hoping we were going to be part of a crew.
So you want Age of Icarus, but for UFOs?
Yeah, I want Guns of Icarus, but in space is what I want. But I want it with big ships where you have crews of 30 people, and those 30 people are each working on. Because what you could have is an instance for each ship, and that instance is where the players actually work. And then outside of that is projected the actual battle and the damage done, and you can see the guns shooting out and what have you. That's my nerdgasm. That's that kind of game. Throw in any kind of Gundam style gunplay, with robots, and you got the perfect MMO for me. I would play that till the end of time.
And he says that I don't want reality.
Hey, this is still sci-fi. Sci-fi could be the reality in the future. That's what you have to remember.
And laser guns won't be?
Laser guns will be, but oh damn, you got me there. Laser guns, yes. That is true. But you got a lot of fantasy in you.
That's true.
A lot of Magic the Gathering. Alright, so World of Warplanes open beta. You can check it out. I would like you guys to, who do play a lot of, say, War Thunder or World of Warplanes, to break it down to us in the comments. Which one do you think is better? And, really, what are the pros and cons of both of them? Because we've sort of railed a little bit on Warplanes, but I've heard people complain about War Thunder as well. The cash shop imbalance, perhaps, the currency gain issues and what have you. So I'm curious to know both sides. Let us know in the comments. So for our final normal article here, Jason, this is actually right up your alley because this is what you wrote about. We heard some news, Jason. Is WoW heading free-to-play? Is that what's happening?
Yes, absolutely. Going to happen next week.
Oh man, WoW's going free to play. You heard it here first, guys.
Flipping the tables. The tables
misquote of the century. WoW's going free to play. No, what's actually happening?
What's actually happening is that some guys data mined some info from the upcoming update, in which they saw a potion available that gave plus 100% XP, and the thought is that something like that would fit in a cash shop. That's kind of where it has to go. And it's kind of snowballed from there. You have the community manager Zarheim getting on the forums and saying that it's something meaning the potion is something we're looking at as a way to actually bring something to extra market. So it's he didn't say no, we're not doing a cash shop at all. He just said this is something we're looking into.
Well,
so,
Jason, something that's data mined means it's 100% going to happen.
Well, sure. There's
data mine means 100%. If it's in the game files, it's going to come out.
Well, sure, but they're usually moderately reliable, and the fact that Zarheim didn't come on and say, no, this is clearly BS.
No.
Yeah, lends a little bit of credence to it. Obviously, we'll know once the update goes up, which I think is later this month.
I guess what I meant by that is that while it isn't, 100% confirmed that it will happen, it doesn't also mean that free-to-play will happen.
Yeah, we're making a lot of jumps here, but yeah.
So this is something I can ask both you and Kevin. Let's say, for example, it would go free to play. So they're saying that this may be for specific regions. I guess those that want to maximize their time at places like LAN areas where players can go. They don't have access to stable internet, so they go to an area in, say, Asia and play at a little computer center. What are they called?
LAN centers.
LAN centers,
or internet cafes.
Internet cafes, yeah. It's been so long since I talked about them. An internet cafe, they pay for time there and they play there. I'm curious, do any of you actually do that? I'm wondering if any of our viewers go there and are maybe listening to us there right now. But they go there, they pay for time, they play their games, and so
people. I was just gonna say, people are gonna pay for their time in the internet cafe to listen to us.
I know, right? Like,
I'm gonna go with
how pretentious.
They love it.
That's super pretentious.
We're that good.
Don't
That
hurt me.
damn good.
Maybe. Who knows? You can dream. So they pay for the time there, and to maximize their time leveling in MMORPG, they pay for an experience boost so that they get more out of it, right? Makes perfect sense. It makes sense that WoW would do that, but why do it so late now, There's so many people playing WoW, but they're already in-game. Usually you have experience boost for new players. And there's other ways to level in WoW right now as well. Like, you could do refer a friend or dungeons. You don't need to waste money on 100%, increase of speed. I don't know if you can hear that. It's my phone.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's with the music? I'll jump in on it right now. For me, it feels like one way or the other, they're trying to bring in new people. Whether it be they just want to branch out and say, hey, here's going to be this next expansion, and if you want to try to get up to these higher levels and actually get to play this in-game content anytime reasonably soon, you can get these potions that will get you up there in a hurry, instead of having to grind your way from the very beginning. That, or yes, there's the, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it does lean towards some free-to-play aspects where they're just going, hey, look, it's now free-to-play. You can all jump in level 0, and if you want to get up to the top and start playing all the dungeon runs, here's how you do it.
Another possibility is they might introduce something like a cash shop, but just for a lot of the things that you already pay for with real money, like getting mounts or changes to.
They already have that.
Yeah, it's just an interesting item,
right?
What? What'd you say?
It's just a really interesting item to have chosen for a cash shop. Exactly that, because most of it is in-game. Most people are max level, so why would they have an experience boost if they're not looking to add some sort of new players to the base in one way or another?
And Jason, what were you saying?
I was just saying they don't have that in-game where you can buy that stuff. You can go and get that. You can go to your account management or whatever and do all that stuff. But I don't think there's any actual press a button while you're in the game to get to the cash shop to buy stuff.
No, I don't think there's.
Yeah, so that's the sort of thing. They could just be trying to do that because any company wants to make it more convenient for you to give them your money. And this theoretically does that sort of thing. I mean, we see it in free-to-play games all the time. There's a little thing up in the corner that says, click here to buy stuff or enter the cash shop or whatever.
They'll give you a dedicated button for it.
Exactly.
So you don't miss out on it.
Yeah, so maybe that's all it's really there for, is to allow you to buy your mounts and your hair color changes or your gender swap or whatever the heck kind of crazy stuff you want to do. Or whatever else they might do. Maybe they'll let you buy some cosmetic clothing or some other theoretically non-pay-to-win kind of thing.
So my question is, let's say for a brief moment, it does at one point lead to free-to-play. Just to play the devil's advocate here, right?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
We're getting the hate now.
I'm going to play the advocate for a second. If it goes free-to-play, generally speaking, when something goes free-to-play, if they are introducing this cap shop now, and something transitions to free-to-play, that is when they introduce the cash shop. Up until that point, everything is available in game, right? But Blizzard has already added a cash shop where players can buy mounts, where they can buy pets, and different things like that. So they've already cashed in on that for free-to-play players. So does that mean that they would keep that? Because Blizzard's owned by Activision. There would be some other way for them to sort of gain extra income. You have the 100% boost in experience. That is one logical one. But what else could they do? What else could they add that they haven't already without having to restrict content from new players, from free-to-play players? Like transmogrification is a feature available for any paying subscriber of World of Warcraft. Do they remove that to disallow new players or free-to-play players from changing the look of their gear to something awesome that you can get from old content? Like, where would they actually even introduce new stuff to make back money that they haven't already added to the game in some form?
That is the difficult part, because when you take stuff away from the paying players to put something in the cash shop, that's when you start to really hear the screaming. Lord of the Rings Online did something like that. And it was not real popular. So most games don't do it, I think, when they do make that switch. I think they still allow you to keep whatever was in the game before. You can still get through the game, or maybe you can buy it on the cash shop. It might be that for future stuff they decide to put in, like if they didn't have transmogs before, it would be the sort of thing where if they added it later, then it might be a cash shop exclusive thing. But generally, you really try not to take away from what's in the game and put it into the cash shop exclusively.
Yeah. Another thing it would be, I thought, that they could just keep the subscription. If you continue to be a subscriber of WoW, you still get access to all these features. If you're not a subscriber of WoW, these features are restricted, which still sucks. Like, it still sucks for a free-to-play player because it means you don't get access to everything, and you're going down the route of EA and SOTOR. But
let's not talk about being that bad.
Okay, yeah, that's a little extreme. That's like a 10 on the Richter scale. Okay.
Well, let's keep it in the low territory.
In the logical realm, like not the illogical realm. There's not much they could take away that wouldn't piss people off in some form. Generally, because a lot of that stuff has been just so common for players to get for free.
Well, what would they do to accounts that had already, like, let's say, all the max level accounts? Would they then wipe them, or would they just stay exactly the same and have all the stuff? And what would make them want to keep paying at that point? If they have everything they're going to get and nothing's going to be taken from them, why would they not just switch to free-to-play? Because they're not losing anything and they don't actually have to pay for anything.
No, they would keep everything most likely, but they couldn't change anything,
You might not be able to do raids or high-level instances. They could put whatever they, stuff like that to make it so that you'd want to pay.
Oh, I certainly think if they restricted raids, that actually would be something logical that they would do, because they know how popular their raids are and how popular raiding in the game is, that it would force free-to-play players to pay for that access. But they could also be the nice route and go, we'll just give this for free because we know everybody loves to raid in World of Warcraft, and if they are able to do that for free, maybe they'll spend money in other areas.
Yeah, but then they have to.
Maybe it'll be like
they have to make sure they have good cash.
Kevin,
I can't talk. No, I was saying maybe they'll just reduce the loot drops in raids and then make some of the raid drop items available in the cash shop, albeit at expensive levels, but that.
I'm gonna say no right there. I'm gonna say no. That
lower tier stuff
buying gear would be the most idiotic thing.
Kevin, this is why you don't work for Blizzard.
Kevin, no.
It would totally ruin it intentionally just so no one would play it. I'm kidding.
You're like, Kevin, you're taking the suit. You're supposed to be like the indie gamer here. You're like, let's take the gear out of the game, put it behind a cash shop. While I smoke this cigar here behind this
cigar
long meeting
made
table.
Of money.
Yes. Kevin. We show your true colors. All right, so yes, speculation. As for now, I'm pretty sure that it's not going to go free to play. It is what they say in the terms of adding a little convenience boost for, I guess, that really, really niche player that plays World of Warcraft a lot at internet cafes, apparently. Enough for them to add that. But we'll have to keep a close eye and see what happens next. It could evolve. Who knows? Alright, so the member topics. Our new little second what is this? The second time we've done this? Yeah, that's what it is.
Installment.
There we go. Installment of the series. We got some good responses from the first one, so I thought we'd go ahead and kick it off with the second one here. This one comes from Shinwolf, and he basically says, what do you think about the celebrity status esports players are beginning to garner? Do you think this would have any effect if they were caught cheating or exploiting preferential treatment, perhaps? It's a good sort of question to ask, seeing as there's a lot of celebrity status coming out of esports now. We're having League of Legends players pool 10,000, 15,000 people watching them play League of Legends. Similar numbers for Dota tournaments and what have you. These people are well known within these communities. And I think over time, as we as a generation and as our, predecessors and the people that come after us, as we all continually sort of grow up and show this to be our main sort of form of entertainment, if we continue to be gamers as we get older, then these people, it'll just continually get larger and larger in these areas. And I think we've already started seeing a little bit of that, I don't know, glamour, players, getting a lot of that recognition. We certainly see it at tournaments. Jason, you were just watching a StarCraft tournament. Did you see any of that?
I was.
You were seeing some of that?
I was watching a StarCraft tournament? I thought Kevin was a StarCraft fan.
Wait, weren't you were watching the StarCraft for Day 9. You were watching Day 9. I just assumed it was one of his tournaments he was casting.
No, I don't think I've ever watched Day 9.
Wait, who was watching Day 9?
David.
Maybe it was David from last week. That's right.
You were watching David. Okay, I heard
David
was watching
Day 9.
Oh my gosh. I was getting so confused. One of you were watching something today before the show started, and I could have sworn it was something StarCraft related. But maybe it wasn't.
But no, to your point, I mean, yeah, they are becoming, they're bigger celebrities, but it's still kind of a contained thing. I mean, it's, League of Legends doesn't compare to like the NFL. It's nowhere near in terms of recognition, or certainly even in terms of the money. So
no, but that's why I said like it could lead that way as we get older.
It could, but I remember I wrote a blog piece on this a while back. Why the issue that I have with esports, and I don't remember what it was. But I think a large part of it was sort of maybe like the independence of players. In that a lot of them are, like you said, they're just gamers in a sense. They're not guys that are going to want to necessarily, have to adhere to a code of conduct that is on par with, say, what a professional NFL or Major League Baseball player or whatever has to. Granted, yeah, those guys make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. For that kind of money, would I, as a professional League of Legends player, would I be a really nice guy and wear a nice collared shirt and whatever to my tournaments or whatever? Maybe I would, but you would have a lot of resistance from that because, gamers are kind of countercultural to begin with, whereas athletes just seem a little more mainstream, I think, and that's why I think they've been a little more better able to handle that sort of thing and those kind of pressures. So I think it's going to be hard for it to really become a mainstream, wide-ranging kind of thing.
And yet we see in Korea, for example, StarCraft players there, Esport players there.
Oh yeah, they're crazy.
They're considered like NFL players here and stuff like that. So there certainly is the capability for esports to head that way. I think the question more comes down to where those players are based, what regions they're based in, and whether that region is very accepting towards gaming culture. Because like you mentioned, NFL, which is primarily an American sport, that is something that is always going to be more on top than esports is. Whereas Korea is really recognized for a lot of its gaming presence. And who knows, maybe the United States, and other countries similar to it in Europe would head that way right now. But there's always going to be sort of a celebrity status around esports, whether it be big or small, just depends on the game and the current situation. But I still think every player should adhere to some kind of code of conduct. If you're in any kind of limelight, no matter if it's small, in an area where everybody acts a certain way anyways, or if you're in, a mainstream sport, like you said, like the NFL. Kevin?
No matter what level of celebrity they are celebrity to a certain point. Yeah, I mean, granted, yes, esports will probably never reach the level that the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA or anything like that will ever hit. I mean, maybe, if we can be hopeful about it, but logically, that's just not likely to happen. But that being said, it's still a very large following, whether, there's a lot of games, League of Legends and Dota and stuff, that are even growing in popularity, as far as just people watching broadcasts and stuff. So they are going to be watched, and people of various ages will be paying attention to what's going on. And yes, I do believe they should be held to some level of conduct, because they're role models, whether they intend to be or not, or even care to be or not. People are looking to them for example.
That is very true. No matter what sort of walk of life or what you're playing or doing, if there is someone who looks up to you, then that means there is some standard that you need to uphold to. Like, that's just sort of like proper etiquette. Especially when I mean, I don't think these people realize, these 21, young, because, I mean, most of the esports people are in their early 20s to mid-20s. It's sometimes hard to realize that, there are small teenagers, young teenagers, who look up to you and who, look at you as like a model or something that inspires them to not only do better in game, but do better in anything, because they want to work as hard as that person. And so it's stuff like that you should really just consider, or should be considered rather. Now, in terms of, do they use this for their advantage, like exploiting or cheating, or have they used that to their advantage? I do think some players have, and I certainly think that they should be held accountable for it just the same as any other player in any other sport. Like we mentioned before, if you had any kind of celebrity status, you're held to that certain level of standard. And in fact, if you play anything, if you want to consider yourself a competitive player, you should consider yourself also a noble player, or at least a legitimate player.
I almost want to look at this from a professional standpoint. If you were to, let's say, lie to your boss or something in a job and expect to keep your job, I mean, that's ridiculous. So, but, I mean, if these guys are making money to do something, I mean, they've got to understand that they have to fall within whatever moral or ethical guidelines that company or that thing is expecting of them. It's the same as any job you would ever have, and to think that they are not held to that, I find kind of just disrespectful to whatever they're competing in to begin with.
So can you review? I've listed some in the script here. I've listed some different examples of times when players that are quote unquote esports celebrities have wound up either receiving punishment or not receiving punishment. And most of these revolve around like high pressure, intense games like League of Legends, StarCraft 2. But I'm curious, Kevin or Jason, do you have any examples that you know of outside of these two games, or just in gaming in general, that you've witnessed or heard about, where a player has been held or has not been held to a standard of cheating or what have you?
I mean, the closest thing I come to, and it's sort of along the same lines, is when I've worked for various or covered various events in the trading card game field, and when they have like their big events, their big world championships or something, if a player does something, first of all, there's plenty of cheating that goes on at those things that the judges try to catch but don't always. So there's no doubt that it happens there, and almost certainly happens in the other. It's a little harder to cheat in a video game, granted, but
because observers.
Well, observe not that, but you can't just rewrite the code. Not like you're hacking the game, as opposed to a card game where you can, all sorts of things you can manipulate.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem you have, though, is when you're a relatively small outfit, which is what even the big, CCG companies are, compared to, really huge things like the NFL or whatever. It seems like it's more, I don't know what the word is. It's more difficult to really harshly enforce that kind of stuff, because you're trying to establish yourself and you don't want to look like you're a bunch of cheaters, basically. Whereas, if the NFL, if a guy, does something wrong, sure, they suspend him 4 games or whatever, and that's that. And that's not a big deal, because you still got hundreds of other players, thousands of players, and so on. Whereas if you're big time, your big event, your one huge chance to make your mark is your big world championship in a video game or trading card game, and there's some idiot who cheats or gets himself banned, that's all people are going to talk about. That becomes the story more so than your game. And that's why it can be really hard to enforce that kind of stuff.
Exactly. That's actually a really good example.
Yeah, and I'm on exactly the same line. For anyone who actually didn't already know this, but being a big Magic the Gathering nut, this was recently a very big issue within the last year. There was a Player of the Year. I'm not going to name names. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But there's a Player of the Year candidate that had been accused of cheating various times throughout the career. And with this onset of YouTube and these actual like online broadcasting of these high-level tournaments, there became this video evidence of said cheating. And in a wave of kind of cracking down on them, the whole Wizards of the Coast and the whole people that run Magic the Gathering leveled some very, very heavy bans against some very, very large names within the pro-playing community. I believe there was 3 especially very, very well-known individuals. One of them, I believe, has been allowed to return to the game, and one is still banned. I believe he had got like a year and a half or something. And this is a game in which, yes, lifetime bans occur, and they're very, very rare, but exactly that. Like, people were in a huge uproar over it, although most of the uproar was actually trying to get him banned. There was a huge upset because we're given this sort of view just by the outside world of people who don't play about being nerds and all this other things, but generally the idea is to try to be very, very supportive of other players and not try to abuse them and just cheat your way into money. And the celebrity status didn't help him. And I was actually kind of impressed with the way they handled it. They were very, very, they said, hey, we're going to take this very, very thing. We're looking at all the evidence. Like, we're not just going to throw a ban out just to throw a ban out. We're going to look at all this evidence that's being submitted, and then they handled it appropriately.
But Magic, at least, too, is it's the granddaddy. It is like the World of Warcraft of CCG. So it can kind of afford to do that sort of thing and bring down the hammer. It's a lot tougher with a newer thing that's still kind of trying to establish itself to adopt that kind of hard stance.
True.
Yeah, it is very true. I mean, we do have examples, like I have examples of players being banned from throwing, for throwing games in like Dota 2 or League of Legends. Players being banned for bad conduct in League of Legends, completely banned their accounts. I mean, they could always get a new account, but if you're banned, your name, your real name attached to that pro player account is attached to whatever new account you make as well. And most likely that means that it's an end to your esport career, quote unquote. So banned for ELO boosting. Now I know some of those bans for ELO boosting were recently reinstated, so those players, or removed rather, so those players can return to the game. But that's from League of Legends. And in StarCraft 2, everybody knows, if you know StarCraft 2 and know Zerg players that are famous, Hydra was actually let go from his team after he shouted some very insensitive remarks towards his fans. So I've seen examples of the ban hammer coming down for multiple styles of games, but I mean, League of Legends also is another example. They did not ban a team that screen looked during a championship, and actually stated that while they did screen look and there was action taken based on that screen look, they felt like it didn't have any outcome on the actual effect of the full game. But the matter of fact is that team got to keep playing. They were fined some money, I think like $70,000 or something like that. So it was
30,000.
30,000. Sorry, I was looking at a couple different numbers from different ones.
That one still gets me. It's like, why do you even have your thing set up so that one team can look at the other screen?
Yeah.
I was watching that game. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
But there was multiple incidents that were accused of, players looking at the screen, and the only one that they actually did anything with was, I believe, that one with the particular team. I think it was a Zubu Frost.
Yep.
That had the issue. So yeah, so we've seen both. I certainly think the thing that we can take away from this is celebrity status. No matter what, you're held to a proper standard. And you should just hold your standard to that and not expect other people to just take you for who you are or, cheat. You just got to be an upstanding citizen, essentially. Alrighty then. So, At this point, it's when I draw your attention to any lovely MMOBomb articles or YouTube videos that you should definitely check out. I would highly recommend checking out me and Jason's recent foray into War Thunder. It's on the YouTube channel right now. Looks really great. It's really fun.
Where in Spunkify shoots people down and I just get shot down mostly.
No, I feel like you live vicariously through me during this time. So that's what was happening. Does that mean
I just follow you and try to pick up your pieces?
Yeah, you were like there for support. You spotted enemies.
I was there for moral support, at least.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we had the mighty quest for epic loot. First look. It is an interesting sort of like dungeon crawler, but you crawl other people's castles and take their loot. And people do that to you, and they take a lot of stuff all the time. You can cry and cry about it. And see what my impressions are of that. There's over 2 very good separate videos to check out. On the website, we've got some giveaways going out for MU Rebirth, the remake of the popular MMO MU. Very old, but very popular still. Got some more news to check out. And, of course, we have some good old-fashioned articles from Jason Winter dealing with World of Warcraft going free to play. And then, Jason, you also wrote something else earlier in the week dealing with esports and PlanetSide 2. Some new PlanetSide 2 esports stuff happening with new modes and what have you. So, alright, that's what you can check out there. But let's go ahead now and wrap this all up with the weekly bombs. Alright, so my bomb really quickly has to go to Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. I'm going to give it an A bomb. And that is mainly because of the balancing that's currently ongoing in the game. I feel as though it is way too difficult to take on certain groups of monsters at certain intervals. You kind of hit these brick walls that you have to grind out for way too long. And players put these traps and whatever in your castle that prevent you from progressing and getting to their loot, which is a huge part of you making money. But you just can't take them on because they're just really imbalanced for that level. And also things start costing really, they start costing quite a penny really quickly. And they take a lot of time to level up unless you pay money. And so, while I don't think it's pay to win, I certainly think it's pay to win faster. And it isn't to a degree a PvP game, so I guess it all comes around to being slightly pay to win if you look at it just right.
But you know what it reminds me? It reminds me a little of the issues that they had with the Foundry and Neverwinter when people, when they, because you can make up your own content basically, and people were just making this most efficient way to garner loot and get stuff as quickly as possible. This almost sounds like the reverse of it. People are essentially making their own content and making it like unbalanced.
They're making it like so that people can get screwed over as easily as possible.
Yeah, as opposed to people being able to accumulate loot as easily as possible. Yeah,
you look at it, and you're like, how can I beat this? Like, how can I logically beat it? It's a combination of the mobs being like really strong at certain levels. Like they really, like certain mobs just should not be, they should either be nerfed at that level or they should not be available to players who progress through castles at that level. Because I've had multiple instances where if you get like a dragon as your boss and you're like, say, level 7 or 8, you can't do it. There's no way you're going to beat it in time. That dragon's most likely going to kill you. And if you do beat it, you're going to run out of time on the clock because everything is time-based and not be able to loot anybody. And maybe you wasted 3 potions that cost you a total of 650 gold or what have you, because potions are very expensive. And so it just really feels like you're grinding for a long time because you're always losing loot. You're always losing money buying new potions and always losing money, from people stealing stuff from your castle, etc., etc. So it just there's areas where it just does not feel as satisfying as you would have hoped for it to be. Jason, what is your bomb?
I'm going to give an A bomb to my computer for not playing nights with my new video card.
What's going on?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Is I bought a video card really like 2 years ago almost, a GTX 560, and every 6 months or so, it would just start failing on me. Like I'd just freeze up my computer or whatever. I kept sending it back, getting it replaced. I get a new one from the manufacturer. It'd come back every 6 months basically. So I finally got the new one again this week, and I put it in, and it started having these issues right away. So I thought that originally it was just like going bad after 6 months, But now clearly it's my computer just doesn't want to make that thing work somehow. And I just
might need to get a new computer.
Well, you don't pay me enough.
So, I don't pay. I don't pay anybody.
Well, yeah. Well, the payment people don't pay me anyway. But yeah, so it's just I have to use my old 4-year-old video card, and now I'm afraid because my computer is kind of old, so I don't really want to buy a new video card now. I think I might get another one later. So it's really cutting into my prime gaming.
I hate when that happens. I hate when you get stuck with technology that you're like, no, it just doesn't cut my needs.
It just won't work. I don't know why.
It doesn't get that.
Don't know why.
Well, I feel you're paying Jason, and if I ever can have some spare parts, I will gladly lend them to you to spruce up your gaming experience. And I'm serious. But Kevin, what is your bomb?
Well, I might actually have some spare parts. My A bomb.
Look at us. We're gonna come together and build him a computer.
You're just gonna build me a computer, you guys. I'll give you my address. Just ship it right here.
Look at this. We're going to come together for the community. We're going to make Jason a better computer so he can write us better articles.
Yes.
That's how it's all going to go. All right, Kevin, what was your bomb?
I'm going to drop an A-bomb on the weather because it is terrible. I mean, I know it's summer, but it's been over 100 and something for a week and a half, 2 weeks straight now, and it's miserable. I'm dying from it. I am not ready for this.
It's 109 for a week straight so far. It's been miserable. In case you guys don't know, me and Kevin, we live fairly close to each other, so we're dying out here. We're cooking like bacon. It's sizzling.
Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Yep.
I haven't left my house in 3 days. It's so hot. All right, so the member bombs now. The first member bomb here we have is from Ming Tao. Hope I say your name correctly. It goes, the bomb to Star Trek Online for the new faction. I love the Romulus. He likes the Romulus.
He loves the Romulans, I'm thinking.
Romulans?
Romulans.
Oh my god. Romulus is where they're from.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the planet.
Romulan. Yeah, sorry.
Possibly Remus, that's the other one, but mostly Romulus.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe he just loves the planet.
Maybe he does.
Maybe he just loves the
planet. They said the Romulus. That doesn't really make
the
sense.
Romulus. The planet, the Earth, it's just when you talk about there, it's the Earth. All right, so next guy is Vuko88. Jason, you want to take this one?
Sure. Vuko88 says, this week I want to give the bomb to Rift for being the best free-to-play MMO I have ever played. Soul Tree system is a little less flexible than it seems at first, and story and crafting is mediocre, but there is so much things to do besides doing quests, like invasions, instant adventures, artifacts hunting, war fronts, etc., that I'm constantly being sidetracked by it. This is a feeling I've always loved in single-player games like The Elder Scrolls or Grand Theft Auto series, but I've never before experienced it in MMO.
I noticed you had to take a moment there to debrief the abbreviations.
I didn't even read these ahead of time, so I was like,
TES and GTA.
I knew what GTA was. I was like, wait, oh yeah,
Elder Scrolls 1. That's the one that Jason, I was wondering if he was going to pull it off, but he did well, yeah. So, Rift, it's a good MMO. I think people were just distracted by the feeling that it looks like poop, and that it has tab targeting combat, but other than those two things, it is actually really enjoyable. And the graphics aren't that bad. I think it's the color tones that make it look so terrible. I don't know.
You're just a hater.
I'm not a hater. I like
the one with the crappy video card. You're the one complaining about how stuff looks.
I look at it and I'm just like...
That's why he knows it looks like crap.
Yeah, because I've seen everything else on high settings. Jason, I hate to tell you this, but the other day I was running around in PlanetSide 2, and I was like, where did all these new particle effects come from? And then I looked at my video settings, and I noticed that the graphics of physics effects for my 670 were turned on now. So I was getting to see all the physical effects of the particles and explosions and whatnot, and it was very pretty.
Bite me.
Oh.
Well said. Well said.
That summarizes. All right, Kevin, last one. What is it?
I'm going to give this one to Kevin. That's great.
Awesome. I get the wonderful... jerks. Sailor Naruto 39. So, of course, I'm not here,
what?
so everyone
No, you don't... No. You got a different one.
What?
Yeah. Oh, hold on. I'll give it to you. Remember, I was like, we got to do a different one because he's in the same one.
I thought we were doing that for the other section.
No, I had to change it.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. It's from Crazy, spelled with IEE on the end. I'm just gonna spell this KRAZIEE.
He's crazy.
He goes, I'd like to give a big fat A-bomb to PlanetSide 2 and Sony. Sony, I love you, I really do, but it doesn't matter how many new vehicles, new guns, or player-driven content you put out, the game is buggy as hell, it's a bad game. PlanetSide 2 is like a dog, and you love that dog, but it's covered with fleas. Ow!
Dang.
Like, that's harsh.
That's really harsh.
But I can't actually argue with it because I had a lot of issues with it not that long ago. Though it's working better now. I don't know why.
Sometimes, at least they didn't have the issue anymore where randomly your screen would just look like it was like there's dust in your screen, like forever, where you couldn't see anything. You just see your gun, and you have to completely relog, and that would happen like every 10 minutes or so. That was back in beta. At least they've got past that nasty bug.
There were a lot of interesting bugs in beta.
Yeah,
You talk about the flying tank. I actually saw the flying tank in beta.
You did. You saw the flying tank. Yeah.
Yes.
There was another one where immediately when you spawned, you would go through the ground. That was great.
Yes.
So everybody would fall through the floor. Sometimes you would spawn in your drop pod, and the drop pod wouldn't spawn, so you would just fall down and die. I've seen that one still. Just bugs like that. So yeah, Crazy. I understand, man. I love that dog too. I love petting that dog, but after a while, I gotta walk away from the dog because my arm is covered in fleas. So I feel your pain. All right, so moving on to the question of the week then. Last question of the week from last week was, do you prefer smaller open world PvP or more objective-based battlegrounds with large teams? The Ride 4 said, I prefer bigger PvP. I think an awesome PvP format would be a Castle Siege, 1,000 versus 1,000, or 500 versus 500 player battles. Make them crazy and overpacked, but this may not be good for lower-end PCs.
Like mine.
Like Jason's. I would definitely have to agree with that, though, because having played Guild Wars 2, where it is just a couple hundred people versus a couple hundred people, with all the spell effects and everything, it actually isn't as fun as you would think. Mainly because, at least in Guild Wars 2, you die to AoE so fast. Like, when that many people, you can, like, one-shot someone before they even really have a time to react to what's going on. And I think that's why, I mean, what we've seen, World of Warcraft tried to do it when they had Winter's Grasp. That failed horribly with large scale, to the point where they had to reduce it to 100 versus 100. But if they could ever pull it off correctly and balance it correctly, yes, I think that would be amazing to sort of have like a Lord of the Rings 2 tower battle between thousands of players. Jason, why don't you get this next interesting named fellow?
It's from Kinetic Fetus. Excellent name. He says, definitely have to go with larger scale objective-based PvP. This group go kill that group has its place, but it's just not as interesting. So it sounds like he likes the dog with fleas.
He does like the dog with fleas. He lets that dog give him kisses.
Oh, it's tongue fleas.
Did you really have to go that far with it?
I always go for the tongue.
Someone should... Oh.
And
Jason,
that was this week's, everybody.
Jason is he's such a ladies' man. All right, Kevin, can you take the last one?
Okay, now it's Sailor Naruto 39.
All right.
Okay, I prefer the latter, large-scale, objective-based PvP. While I suck ass at PvP, the large-scale and chaos allows for people to just go wild, contributing to the overall action. All the people running around also provides great distractions to players that would otherwise one-shot me. Note, this experience is based off Shia. Is that the correct?
That's, yeah.
Okay.
It's alright. It's alright. It's a very old MMO that like, if you know about Shia and if you've played Shia, then that means you've been around free-to-play for a while. It's one of the original. It's from Area Games.
Area, yep.
And
covered it once in the magazine.
Yeah. It has its following. There's still players who play that.
He's definitely the same as me. It's like I like larger stuff because I stink so bad, so I just like being able to throw a lot of stuff out there and just be a target. I wish, like I said, I agree. I wish that we could handle huge battles. My ideal thing would be someday to be able to do something like an actual, like, medieval siege, where it's like 10,000 attackers and 10,000 defenders, something going over the walls or trying to ram
That's
through them
exactly
or
what I
towers or
thought
whatever.
about.
Battle of Helm's Deep kind of thing.
Battle
I
of
wish we
Helm's
could do
Deep.
that.
That's exactly what I want. I want Battle of Helm's Deep. I want all of that.
But even your badass computer couldn't run that.
Oh no.
Mine would, not even close.
We're just not at that point yet. We know it's gonna be possible at some point in the future, but it's just not where we are right now in technology. Not only just like the ability to render that, it's the ability to handle all of that fluidly, like from a server-side architecture. Because 10,000 players moving simultaneously, and you have to track all of that movement. That's quite a lot to do. But yeah, large-scale PvP, if it was balanced in the way that it was fun, and if it was done in a way that your computer wouldn't melt, would certainly be fun. But I do enjoy smaller-scale PvP. Some of the best PvP experiences that I had came from World of Warcraft. I know some people are going to hate on me because of that, but I enjoyed Arena, and I enjoyed some Battlegrounds. And I certainly played a lot of that while waiting for... I basically played that in between waiting to raid, and that's what I did for a large portion of my WoW career. Alright, that's going to go ahead and be the question of the week. Now, this question of the week for this week is going to be, if you were an Esport pro at one game, what game would that be and why? So, if you had to be an Esport pro at a certain game, which game would you choose to be the best of the best, and why? That'll be your question of the week here. And we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. It's been great. Episode 75, yet another winner. And I'm going to go ahead and have to thank Kevin and Jason Winter yet again for being on the show like troopers, providing great consultation information, talking about all kinds of things, offering different opinions.
And just in case you weren't paying attention at the start of the show, when he says Kevin and Jason Winter, we're not married.
Yes.
Yes, I'm just Kevin with no last name. I will never have one. I'm like those, well, no, I don't really want to compare myself to Madonna, but I guess I have to. That's really sad.
Kevin Winter.
What?
Kevin? With a name Winter, it would sound pretty nice. KW, Kevin Winter.
No.
No. I might even reveal the name that doesn't exist in order to avoid that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Winter is better than Kevin's real last name. Let's go.
It's not. My last name is way more fun.
Oh, then tell it. What is it?
No.
See, I almost tricked you. All right. Go ahead then and give us you guys Twitters and Facebooks and home addresses and bank address and our bank number. Yeah, all that stuff. Go ahead, Jason.
Sure. Yep. Find me on the Twitter at Winter Informal. I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/JasonWinter. I actually haven't streamed for a couple of weeks because I was having this whole video card issue. Now I'm just going to say heck with it. So I'll probably stream something this week. If it's like 8 frames per second, whatever.
Hit me up, just Jason. I'll stream with you, man.
All right.
We can be streaming buddies.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I thought I was married to Kevin, not you.
I'm just gonna leave that one alone.
It's an open relationship. Come on.
I like how you guys are deciding my relationships too. This is
Kevin, where can they stalk you?
No social media K. So no social media K. Sorry, on Twitter. That's about it. I'm at 9 followers. That's still
Did anybody actually tweet you?
Yes, I actually had a couple people actually send me a message, which is awesome because I talked back to them, and I've already promised an embarrassing photo of you actually as it goes if I break 10. But I will start I'm waiting to hit to that 10 before I really start going crazy on the Twitter as far as posting stuff because 9 people is just nothing. So I'm rather disappointed in the community. I thought they would do better, but there's a couple guys on the Twitter that I'm fans of that they impressed me, but that's not enough.
There's people who have those 9 people. They're the crazy ones. They're the ones that have your sound on loop. And just play you talking over and over, and they're like, Kevin, yeah, Kevin.
You had to make it creepy. This is why I didn't want one in the first place, and now I don't want one anymore.
Oh no, Kevin, you got to take every fan in stride, even the good ones and bad ones. But all right, that's been this Free to Play Cast episode. Thanks to listening.
Where do we find you?
Where do we? Yeah. I forget. Where do you find me? You can find me on Twitter at Spunklefy. So easy, so nice. You can also find me on the MMOBomb twitch.tv/MMOBomb. Right there. So simple, so easy, so nice. I'm tired. And I'm sure these guys are too. So we will see you for the next episode of the Free Play Cast. This has been Smokify. Smokify out. Later, guys.